This is where we're gonna learn about cellular energy. We won't go into crazy detail, we'll just talk about it generally. We'll talk about photosynthesis, respiration, and ATP. When all is said and all is done, you'll know more, hopefully. Let's start with what our cells use as energy currency. It's a simple little molecule that we call ATP. It functions similarly to a rechargeable battery by breaking off and replacing one of the 3 P's. You see the energy in this molecule stored in the bond between the phosphates to be used by cells as the need for energy dictates. I'm getting ahead of myself though. Let's start with the structure of this molecule so we can better understand this cellular energy tool. There are 3 parts that go into making ATP. Ribose and adenine combine to form adenosine. Tack on 3 phosphates that'll make adenosine triphosphate. As an energy source, this molecule is more than adequate. To envision how ATP works, you can think about a spring. You can press it and you hold it. It takes energy to hold that thing. Release it and the spring is sprung, like taking off a P. The energy is used by the cell and what's left is ADP. Adenosine diphosphate is a rechargeable battery drained. Our bodies are recyclers though. Adenosine phosphate can be regained. Effective and efficient is the cell's use of ATP. It lets you do what you gotta do, like eating a panini. Now we're going to keep on learning about cellular energy. Still won't go into crazy detail, we'll still talk about it generally. We'll talk about photosynthesis since we just did ATP. When all is said and all is done, you'll know more, hopefully. Photosynthesis uses the sunlight to produce some sugar. And chloroplasts are the organelles where photosynthesis occurs. It's divided into 2 parts, one needs sunlight and one doesn't. If it wasn't for the first step, the second step could do nothing. But before we look at the steps, first let's look at the equation. Carbon dioxide, water, and sunlight mix to give us sugar and oxygen. 6CO2 plus 6H2O. Sunlight will produce C6H12O6 and 6O2, which body can then use. The first reaction of photosynthesis is light dependent. To collect the light, the thylakoid disc contain molecules called pigment. There's chlorophyll A and chlorophyll B, which absorb violet, blue, and red light. Then there are the carotenoids, which don't absorb yellow, orange, or red light. Pigments absorb solar energy and pass this to the electrons, which travel down the ETC all in the same direction. The electron transport chain makes molecules to be used in the next phase. It produces usable ATP and also NADPH. The final step's the Calvin cycle and doesn't require light. It takes place in the stroma and can continue into the night. It uses the products that the first step made, and the end result is that glucose is created. Stay with me and keep on learning about cellular energy. Still gonna skip that crazy detail, we'll still talk about it generally. Now let's talk about respiration and how we make ATP. When all is said and all is done, you'll know more, hopefully. Cellular respiration is how cells make energy. Our cells break down the glucose and produce ATP. There are steps in this process, the magic number's 3. When oxygen is present, we do glycolysis, the Krebs cycle, and the ETC. Glycolysis happens in the cytoplasm, it's how we get this started. We split a glucose molecule and into pyruvic acid we convert it. Pyruvic acid's needed to start the next step aerobically, and though it takes some energy, we still net to ATP. Mr. Krebs discovered the citric acid cycle, which goes round and round, as you can tell by looking at the title. The pyruvic acid goes in to create the molecules for the final step, like NADH, FADH, and more ATP for some pep. Finally, molecules move into the electron transport chain. Here's where they get the payoff in this glucose changing game. 32 ATP are made along with water in the mitochondria, which makes the equation the same as photosynthesis. The sides just get switched up. Sometimes oxygen's not there. We call this anaerobic. It can happen when we exercise, but our bodies have a good trick. Lactic acid fermentation can get us through the ordeal, similar to how yeast can be used to make bread or wine or beer. I hope this helped you learn about cellular energy. We didn't hit the crazy details, we just talked about it generally. We looked at photosynthesis, respiration, and ATP. Now that all is said and done, you know more, hopefully.